The mother-in-law's just no pie. Anyone else? Someone in the soup thread requested that I post one of my many adventures with what my former mother-in-law did to me once. I'm still healing from a lot of the stuff the XH and former mother-in-law did to me over the years, and I'm hoping that my words can help others in some way by commiseration. She's a huge health nut because of a scare back in the 90 seconds thought she felt a lump in a breast. Turned out to be nothing, so she decided to lose even more weight to get rid of breast tissue and weighs all of 104 pounds. I would not be surprised if she actually has an ED because she was trying to get back to her pre-pregnancy weight of 97 pounds. With my XH from 1976 and she was just past 50 at the time, so she is huge on making healthy substitutions most of the time. They do not go over well, BTW, but Jay, father-in-law, accepts it because he still loves her, and my XH and middle sister-in-law put up with her because that's just the way she is, and there's nothing wrong with trying to be healthy. The first year her son and I were married, we were both 26 by that time. We hosted Thanksgiving at our house, I did the majority of the cooking, and she and his sister-in-law were in charge of desserts. Mother-in-law informed me she would bring my favorite, pecan pie. Her family told me in the past she was a horrible cook but decent baker, and that her pecan pie was usually pretty good. It's hard to ruin that, right? So I looked forward to that pie. All morning, I worked on the turkey, a Boston Market sweet potato fluff knockoff, cranberry sauce homemade, the works. She and Jay, father-in-law, showed up to help me finish cooking, and she wouldn't let me see the pie. I thought nothing of it because I was too busy with everything else. Later, after we had eaten the main meal and it was time for dessert, she and sister-in-law made me stay in the living room while they dished up the pecan pie and the cheesecake sister-in-law brought. Well, the cheesecake was runny, sister-in-law used an instant mix, not judging. I used them too, but in a call to be healthy, she and mother-in-law have very similar mindsets. She used rice milk instead of cow's milk, so it never set. No one tried the cheesecake. Mother-in-law proudly handed me the first slice of pecan pie and refused to give any to anyone else until after I ate the first bite. This, itself, was rude, because the hostess is supposed to wait to eat until everyone is served, but I digress. I took a bite, and it was, well, odd. Out of sheer politeness and having a dozen pairs of eyes staring at me, I graciously nodded and smiled through the mouthful with closed lips. She asked if I liked it, and I nodded, trying to swallow whatever it was she gave me. She then grinned and gloated, bragging that she got one over on me. Instead of using pecans, she used black beans in a pecan pie recipe and subbed sucanat for the regular sugar. Seriously. Who does that when there's no medical need? Her reasoning. I don't like beans. I actually do like some beans, but lima and navy beans. I gag. It's a reflex from childhood trauma from being force-fed them. She proved that I actually do and to this day takes credit for it. Whatever. That pie was foul. There were some awkward chuckles. My XH and J, father-in-law, and XH's aunt rolled their eyes when mother-in-law flounced back to the kitchen to cut more. Later, the XAX aunt, now belated, it's been 20 years since all this happened, pulled me aside before she left and told me that when she saw my face, she knew it was awful. In fact, she herself had requested that her roommate throw a lasagna in the oven so it would be ready when she returned home because new brides were known for not being great cooks, and she was pleasantly surprised I had done so well. She apologized to me, gave me a hug, and called her roommate to cancel the lasagna as she walked to her car. There were other people there, too, but I can't remember who since it's been so long. This was also one of the first times mother-in-law informed me that I was too big for her son, and that she had tried to convince him not to marry me. And my cooking was evidence that we both would gain a ton of weight and not be healthy later in life. I was all of 5'5" half tall and weighed 140 pounds when we married earlier that year. He's only half taller and weighed 135 pounds, so of course I was too big. She was glad that at least I was pretty. Later that night, my XH told me that's what I get for expecting anything from mother-in-law. That's just how she is, and he couldn't blame her for wanting to eat healthy. He claimed it wasn't that bad, and that I could have made more effort to eat more than just that one bite, and I should follow in her example by wanting to eat healthier. In fact, he told me she was upset I wouldn't eat anymore, especially after she ate my own cooking. He wanted me to look into the Hallelujah diet just like she and Jay, father-in-law, were because it wouldn't hurt me to lose a few pounds. Yeah, the extensive gaslighting is one of many reasons he's an ex. Lone. My now teenagers have reported that she still occasionally makes comments that while my cooking was very good, it wasn't healthy, and if they weren't careful they would end up looking like me. Whatever. There are many other things she has pulled over the years, some benign like this, and others that were absolutely atrocious, especially when her son and I split up. I'll save those stories for other days, according to the rules. Anyone else had similar experiences? Mother-in-law is trying to gaslight me into apologizing after I got hurt by her rude and disrespectful comment. My future mother-in-law is an official Justnamil. My SO and I have been together for over 4 years, during which I got along great with his family. After our engagement, my parents decided to host a party. We informed my SO parents, but they didn't seem interested in being involved, so we left them out of the planning process. After my parents hosted that engagement party, everything turned south. In an attempt to mend the relationship between my parents and my SO's parents, we invited them both for dinner. Huge mistake. While discussing wedding plans, SO enthusiastically suggested we have the same band my parents paid for at the engagement party. She arrogantly stated, yeah, if they take a shower and change their clothes, they stunk up the place. First of all, wasn't true and was said out of spite to disrespect my parents. I was shocked and hurt that she would say that, so I said that that was an extremely rude comment and that she shouldn't have said that. She decided to repeat her rude comment again. The dinner shortly ended after that, as she continued to try to gaslight me into thinking it was a joke and that I should accept her apology. A couple of days later, I received an email from my future mother-in-law. In the email, she half-ass apologized and finishes off the email with, "Should you become a part of this family, you should learn to recognize jokes." In an attempt to move on from this issue, I accepted her half-ass apology. She then called my SO to talk shit about me to him. She told him that I must apologize to her for overreacting. Edit, thank you for responses and support, everyone. I really appreciate it. FDH and I have decided to have LC with mother-in-law for the time being. We're both in school and don't have the energy to deal with her stupidity. I will not be contacting her or apologizing. FDH, promise me you will put a stop to her rude comments in the future. Psycho mother-in-law, stress over upcoming wedding and having kids. Background: I've been with my fiancé for 3 years now, and about 10 times she has had these horrible abusive meltdowns from seemingly out of nowhere. During these meltdowns, something will trigger her and she turns into the meanest person you've ever met. And I never fight back, because I want all of the wrongdoing to stay on her side of the fence. You can't reason with crazy and you can't argue with stupid. She has called me a MFer, said that I don't have a real job, I work in advanced technology, that I'm going to be a horrible housewife, and that she bets I don't even do his laundry, to which I replied, "We both work full-time, we do our own, and any time my fiancé has tried to talk to her or talk her down, she threatens to take him out of the will." When we told her we were buying a home, she said she was happy for us. Had a meltdown a few days later, texted me and said, "You got my son into $250,000 OF debt." She has no concept of reality and doesn't seem to understand that her son is 40 years old. She asks how much everything costs and even asked how much my salary is after casually meeting me twice. For a while, we had to just let it go because we were living on her property. She would walk over unannounced and half the time not even knock. One time she walked right in while we were having relations on the couch. During meltdowns she would threaten to kick us out, etc. I had such bad anxiety about living there. Since we moved into our home, she has been a lot better to us and acted normal for months. Until Thanksgiving. She doesn't drink often at all, usually only holidays, but when she does, it's a problem. Well, she came over already buzzed, on top of her multiple anxiety and depression and weight loss meds including Xanax, and she barely eats because she is trying to lose weight for the wedding. But it wasn't super obvious. She came over and I got her a glass of wine, not realizing yet that she may have already had a few. She was acting a little loopy, but her personality is always so up and down that it didn't set off any bells. We were in the bathroom and I was helping her touch up her makeup. We were laughing, she was saying how beautiful I look, etc. She can actually be nice, but it's like one of her nasty, insulting, name-calling meltdowns can erase months of goodwill and good behavior. She's walking around and enjoying herself, and sitting and talking with my father and his date. She seems fine. I gave her a little bit more wine. Then she goes out to the porch and is talking with her daughter and adult granddaughters. My dad and his date go home, we're just relaxing and cleaning up. Then I catch wind that she started an argument with one of her granddaughters on the porch. I'm like, oh no, here we go. Keep in mind that she's driving home. She walks in the house and it's obvious now that she's drunk. She asks for more wine, and fiancé, her daughter, and I nicely tell her we don't think it's a good idea because she's driving and it's a holiday, so the cops are out. She grabs a bottle of wine that does not belong to her and proceeds to try to pour some. I said, we're just looking out for you, we don't want anything to happen to you, and she starts screaming at me, screaming and insulting me. In my kitchen, I said nothing, and as I start to walk away to grab my phone and leave the room, I hear my fiancé say, "Mom, this is our home, you can't be acting like that." And apparently while I was sitting in my laundry room waiting for him to tell her to leave, that's the action we agreed upon before the guests came, she flipped out on him for saying that. freaked out, threatened his inheritance, and left, and he said she flew down the street, pedal to the metal. In the days following, she blames the entire thing on him, saying that what he said hurt her feelings and that was just her reaction. He said, "Mom, that was after you screamed at me." She said, "Oh, I didn't scream, you're exaggerating," to which he replied, "Mom, I was sober, he doesn't drink, and I was sitting right there. You screamed at her." I have not received any form of apology or spoken to her since. The wedding. She has been so excited about the upcoming wedding. I know she will be nervous, she won't know many people because she started a war in fiance's family, and told us to uninvite his aunt, uncle, and cousins who were extremely excited to come and probably drink again, on top of her cocktail of pills, on an empty stomach. Even if she goes in with the best intentions and the most positive mood, as soon as that booze hits it will escalate quickly. The professional bartender can cut her off, but that's when she seems to get the most upset. Fiance's sister is an alcoholic who carries a bottle of vodka with her wherever she goes, so she might even sneak drinks to her. I am tempted to hire security, but my sister thinks that will seem insulting. Mother-in-law is about as sharp as a spoon, so I can just tell her the venue requires it. I also don't want to alarm the venue manager by telling her I want to hire security, I just don't know what to do. Brides aren't supposed to worry about this kind of thing. Having kids. That zero boundary which will be over here all the time and guilt-tripping us, probably giving the baby candy bars and buying it tacky clothes and bugging the bejesus out of me. I'm 39, so I don't have a lot of time to wait on this, but I seriously feel like we would have a much more peaceful life if we don't have kids. But really, we're not going to have kids because she is a psycho. That shouldn't be the basis for our decision. Fiancé. He didn't want to deal with it before and would make excuses like, she's nervous about X or she must have run out of a medication or something like that. Because as I said, any attempts on his part to try to calmly knock some sense into her would make her even angrier. But after Thanksgiving happened and finally he was the target before he would brush it off as female drama because his mom and sister fight like cats and dogs and saw how she denied everything. I know he gets it and even said maybe we just need to be done with my family. I think all this time he was trying to keep both camps happy and realizes that's just not realistic. If he does what makes her happy, he's allowing her to cross our boundaries. If he does what makes me happy, then she feels excluded and pouts, and sometimes that's a trigger for an outburst. Please offer any advice you have on any of this. Thank you for reading. Edit. Update. You guys have convinced me to hire security for the wedding and I already feel better. Even if she didn't pull anything, I wouldn't be able to enjoy myself because I'd be paranoid.
Make sure and subscribe.